So you want to be a sorcerer. Level 1 half-orc sorcerer Osaron today on Dungeons and Taverns. Hi, I'm Saul Sunforge. Welcome to Dungeons and Taverns, where I make you characters, maps, give tips, homebrew rules, plus the campaign that I DM called the Dirty 20, and a whole lot more. If you're new here, then thanks for joining us. If this or any of my other videos help or entertain you, then consider a follow. Now on to the video. The backline and slinger are spells that doesn't need a spell book like a wizard, or they don't have a patron like a warlock. An ancient bloodline of mystical magic or heritage is flowing through your veins. Whether that be from a dragon, or a fae such as a dryad, or a deity, or from an influence from an outer plane. Sorcerers are weaker casters than wizards because they don't get to cast as many types of spells as a wizard does. But sorcerers can influence their spells and how they are cast using something called sorcery points, which is a resource that sorcerers can use so that a spell can be twinned, which means it doubles the spell if it's a single target attack spell. Or you can make a spell subtle, or you can increase the distance of the spell, and you could do those things using sorcery points. That's something that's exclusive only to sorcerers. And just as bards have colleges, druids have circles, and barbarians have paths, all which change your character's abilities, sorcerers have origins. Player's Handbook, starting at page 102, is the first origin, a draconic bloodline. Your magic comes from draconic magic that has mixed with your bloodline, or an ancestor that has made a deal with a dragon. At level 1, you choose the type of dragon that your ancestry is based off of. Each dragon is associated with a damage type that will be used for abilities that you gain later on in your sorcerer's life. The next one is wild magic. Your innate magic comes from forces of chaos. It was through exposure to raw magic, or given by a demon, a devil, or a fae, or through a harrowing journey to the outer planes, or it could be a fluke totally of happenstance. The major feature is Magic Surge, which has a table on page 104 of the Player's Handbook, where once per turn the DM can have you roll a D20 after you cast a first level spell, or higher. If the roll is a 1, then you roll a percentile dice, and then you consult a Magic Surge table to see what happens. Not all the effects are bad either. Some of them actually could turn out to be pretty good. If you were casting a spell requiring concentration, it no longer requires concentration to cast. And if a spell being cast was using meta magic, then the spell is too unstable to use meta magic that's cast. On page 66 of Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, we have Abhorrent Mind, which is you have an alien influence giving you psionic powers. You gain access to spells at certain levels that count as sorcerer spells for you, but not against the number of spells you can know. That'll be a common theme. You use the Aberrant Origins to help craft your story, where your powers come from, or you can make one from scratch. Your Dungeon Master will use this to weave arcs into the campaign directly or otherwise for your character. The second one in Tasha's is Clockwork Soul. Your power arises from Mechanus or some realm like it, where cogs, gears, and perfect balance rule the day. You delight in the power of order. At level 1, when a creature within 60 feet of you is about to roll with advantage or disadvantage, you can instead make that roll as if neither one apply. You do this up to your proficiency modifier, and they recharge per long rest. Sounds like a pretty cool ability. Finally, on page 50 of Xanathar's Guide to Everything, first up we have Divine Soul. The spark of magic within you originates from a divine being, where your birth was foretold in a prophecy. At 6th level, you can spend sorcery points when a creature is using dice to heal you, and you can allow them to reroll any number of those dice for a new result. At level 14, you manifest a pair of spectral wings. The next one is shadow magic. You're a creature of shadow. Your magic comes from the Shadowfell. You might, excuse me. You might have lineage emanating from the Shadowfell or exposed to its fell energy, and you are transformed because of it. In addition to spells you gained, you have dark vision up to 120 feet, which usually it's 60 feet, sometimes it's 90 feet, but 120 is superior, obviously. At third level, you can cast darkness, and it doesn't count against your spells known. In addition, if you use 2 sorcery points to cast darkness, you can see through that darkness. And at 6th level, you can summon a hound. Your hound uses direwolf statistics. Direwolves are large, your hound is medium. And there's a few different changes there, but those you can read about specifically under that shadow magic. And then lastly, we have storm sorcery. Your innate magic comes from the power of the elemental air. Your lineage might include power. Excuse me. Your lineage might include powerful air creatures, or perhaps you were born in a storm that was so powerful it's been talked about for many years. In addition to the spells that you gain the ability to speak primordial, which is the language of elementals. You gain the ability to use a bonus action for a gust of wind to allow you to fly up to 10 feet. It doesn't specify whether it's 10 feet forward or 10 feet up. Now that we've discussed those, let's go ahead and get to the character sheet and roll some dice. As you know, there's 6 stats, so we're going to go ahead and do those 6 rolls real quick. It's 4d6, and you drop the lowest. Alright, so the first number is a 15. And then the next one we have is a 16. The next one we have is an 18. The next one we have is a 10. The next one we have is a 14. And then finally we have another 14. So let's go ahead and fill those in. Alright, so I put our stats in numerical order there on the left margin. You can see 18, 16, 15, 14, 14, 10 before any bonuses. That is amazing. This sorcerer is going to rock. Alright, page 41 of the player's handbook has the ability scores increases. So we get a strength increase of 2 and a con increase of 1. So let's go ahead and add those into the character sheet real quick. Sorcerer spells are charisma based, so we want charisma to be our highest stat. So we're going to go ahead and put the 18 there in charisma. Next, sorcerers are backline, so they're not going to need their strength. So that is considered the dump stat. So we're going to put the 10 in there. And 10 plus 2 is 12. So it actually ends up being better than normal. So the next highest stat after that 18 that we place in charisma is 16. So since sorcerers are going to have very low armor, we're going to go ahead and give that 16 actually to dexterity. Next up is we're going to go ahead and put the 15 in our constitution, because the 15 and the 1 makes a 16 to get us to the bonus of 3 instead of the 2 it would have been if we would have just put the 15 somewhere else. So 15 and 1 is 16. Get rid of the 15 there, and then we'll put the 14s obviously in the 2 remaining spots. 14, 14. Continuing on, we spent quite a long time on the origins, explaining those and giving you the details. So in order to catch back up to where I probably should be in terms of time, since we've done this a few times, if you see my other videos on the level 1 characters, let's just go down the list real quick, and then I'll fill it out. Half-orcs mature a little faster than humans, reaching adulthood around age 14. They age noticeably faster and rarely live longer than 75 years. So we'll go ahead and make ours middle age. We'll make them about 35 or so. Size: half-orcs are somewhat larger and bulkier than humans. They range from 5 foot to well over 6 foot tall. We'll make ours 6 foot 1. Base walking speed's 30. Thanks to your orc blood, you have superior vision in dark and dim conditions. You can see in dim light within 60 feet of you as if it were a bright light, and in darkness as if it were dim light. You can't discern color in darkness, but only shades of gray. Menacing, you gain proficiency in intimidation. That's pretty decent because we're going to make you a face character. A face character simply means that you're going to do most of the speaking for the party when there's diplomacy or intimidation or things like that that are involved with passing an obstacle. Relentless endurance. When you are reduced to 0 hit points but not killed outright, you can drop to 1 hit point instead. You can't do this again until you finish a long rest. So it could potentially save your life. At least 1 round. Savage attacks. When you score a critical hit with a melee attack weapon, doesn't matter for you because you're not going to be a melee. If you're doing melee, any type of melee, as a ranged caster, you're doing it wrong. Languages. You can speak, read, and write Common and Orc. Orc is a harsh, grating language with hard consonants. It has no script of its own, but it's written in the Dwarvish script, which I've always found ironic because traditionally orcs and dwarves just completely hate each other. Alright, so we filled out everything. We've got the relentless endurance there, the proficiency with the intimidation, the speed. We filled out the alignment. And then we fill out the age. The eye color is gray. The skin is light blue. And the hair is orange. The half orc, Siren's 6'1", and he weighs 225. So that reflects slightly small on the orc side, and slightly lightweight for an orc. And the reason I went with that decision is because the strength is a 12, which is good for most classes, but an orc is typically stronger because they're more muscular. Same thing with a dwarf. And so a 12 strength for a half orc even is quite low. In terms of the game though, it's fine. Alright, so let's go back to the Sorcerer page here. We start out with a D6 hit dice, and so that means you get 6 plus your Constitution modifier at first level, because first level you always get max. And so we'll go ahead and we'll fill that out. Proficiencies, no armor, and of course in 5th edition you can get proficiencies for armor as a caster, and there's no arcane spell failure like in previous editions. For weapons, you're proficient with daggers, darts, slings, quarterstaffs, light crossbows. You might use the crossbow. I can see you using a sling or the darts, but a dagger and a quarterstaff, I mean, you're not usually going to be that close. You might throw daggers, possibly. That'd be really cool to have, actually, a sorcerer who throws daggers, in lieu of cantrips. That would be pretty cool. Your saving throws, you're proficient in Constitution and Charisma. Skills, you choose 2 from Arcana, Deception, Insight, Intimidation, Persuasion, and Religion. So since we're proficient in Intimidation already, let's go ahead and pick Arcana and Deception. That's what we'll go with for right now, because we still have to choose our background. And we don't use Sword Coast Adventures Guide because we don't own it, so I'm not going to go ahead and use that material. You see here from the spell table, sorcerers at first level, in addition to the features, which we've already covered some of these things, reading the origins, but you know 4 cantrips, 2 spells, and 2 of them are first level. So that's up to you to what spells you wish to use. I'm not going to control any of that stuff for you. Alright, so for our character background, we're going to pick Guild Artisan, or a member of an artisans guild, skilled in a particular field, and closely associated with other artisans. You're a well-established part of the mercantile world, freed by talent and wealth from the constraints of a feudal social order. You learn your skills as an apprentice to a master artisan under the sponsorship of your guild until you become a master in your own right. We're picking this because we want to get the insight and the persuasion. I feel like that's probably the best to have for a sorcerer, especially because we're trying to go with more of a party face, as I said earlier. And so insight and persuasion are rather critical if you want to be a face. Also, we get 1 additional language. The artisan's tools of our choice doesn't necessarily matter too much. Depends on your DM really and how much involved in the world that you wish to get. Alright, so for our ideal, we're going to go with freedom. Tyrants must not be allowed to oppress the people. And we're going to write this all at the end here. For bond, we can go with, I have a family, but I have no idea where they are. One day I hope to see them again. And then for flaw, we'll go with the people who knew me when I was young know my shameful secret, so I can never go home again. And for orcs, you know, they all respect might, and so the fact that you're a caster alone could be your shameful secret. But work with your DM, and they'll work it into the story. For your additional language, I chose Sylvan. Feel free to change it if you wish to, though. You also get, in terms of equipment, a set of artisan's tools, one of your choice, a letter of introduction from your guild, a set of traveler's clothes, and a belt pouch containing 15 gold. So let's go ahead and write that 15 gold down now so we don't forget. We'll put the other stuff in the inventory as we finish writing down the previous things that I said, the ideals, bonds, and flaws. For tools, I picked cartographer's tools. So you were part of a guild where you were made to go out and chart the world. So that fits in perfectly with the orc nomadic lifestyle traditionally, and it works well with your whole scholarly, sorcerer magic-y type stuff. You're always researching and looking up spells and looking at books and things. And so I think the cartographer's tools fit well. Alright, so for your starting equipment, you can choose from column A or B, and there looks like there's 3 rows, and you can switch between A or B for each row. So we have a light crossbow and 20 bolts, or any simple weapon. So we're going to go with the light crossbow and 20 bolts. Component pouch or an arcane focus. We will go with the arcane focus. A Dungeoneers pack or an explorer's pack, and then you get 2 daggers. So let's go ahead and look at the packs now. Alright, so the Dungeoneers pack's worth 12 gold. It includes a backpack, a crowbar, a hammer, 10 pitons, which are the spikes that you drive into the ice or the mountain in order to climb, 10 torches, a tinderbox, 10 days of rations, and a water skin. The pack also has 50 feet of rope strapped to the side of it. The Explorer's pack is 10 gold. It includes a backpack, a bedroll, a mess kit, a tinderbox, 10 torches, 10 days of rations, and a water skin. The pack also has 50 feet of rope strapped to the side of it. So we're going to probably go with the Explorer's pack because I can't see us using the pitons or the crowbar and hammer necessarily. It just makes more sense to have the Explorer's pack for right now. And so I'm going to go ahead and write each individual item that's in that pack into my inventory. I'm going to put them in alphabetical order so you can find them faster while you're playing. On page 143 of the player's handbook, you can see the starting wealth by class. And you go down here and you look, you see Sorcerer is 3d4 times 10. That is their starting wealth. So let's go ahead and roll that out now. Alright, so let's go ahead and roll up our 3d4. 8, multiply it by 10, that's 80. Let's go ahead and add that to the 15 we already have. So you're starting out with 95 gold, and your DM may let you purchase additional starting goods. Ask them, and worst they could say is no, but most DMs will let you. Alright, so I wrote everything in. You can see the starting gold's 95. Got the inventory written down. So we're level 1. Our proficiency bonus at level 1 is always going to be a 2. Let's go ahead and figure out our bonuses now. So what you do is you take the number, you round it down if it's an odd number. If it's an even number, you just divide it in half and then subtract 5 from it, and that gives you your bonus score. So 12 halved is 6 minus 5, it's 1. 16 halved is 8 minus 5 is 3. 16 halved is 8 minus 5 is 3. 14 and a half is 7 minus 5 is 2. 14 and a half is 7 minus 5 is 2. 18 and a half is 9 minus 5 is a 4. So there's your bonuses. Now you go up to your saving throws, and they just correlate directly with your bonuses. Unless there's the dot here, which signifies that you're proficient, then you add your proficiency bonus to that. So strength is a 1, dex is a 3, our constitution is a 3 plus proficiency, so it's a 5. Intelligence is a 2. Wisdom is a 2. Charisma, have a 4, and we're proficient, so it is a 6. So your saves are pretty nice. One thing I didn't mention earlier about the hit dice is whenever you level up, the first level you get the maximum. Whenever you level up, you have to roll your hit dice and add your constitution modifier to get your health. But if you don't feel lucky rolling, you can take the average of the d6, which is a 4, and you'll not get lower than the 4. So if you think you're hitting a hot streak on your luck, you could probably roll a 5 or 6. Then go for it. But if it's too much of a gamble, you think, then just stick with the 4 and add your constitution modifier. In our case, it's a 3. Your initiative is just your dexterity bonus, because we don't have any feats that will increase it. So that means our initiative is a 3. For level 1, your initiative is just your dexterity bonus, so you carry over the 3. Later on, if you pick feats, if your DM allows you to have feats in your campaign, there's feats that will improve your initiative or even give you advantage on your initiative, perhaps. I forgot to mention earlier that when you first level, you get your max hit dice, which your dice is a d6, so that means you get a 6. Your constitution bonus adds to your hit points every single level. So first level, you end up with 9. But every level after that, when you level up, you roll your d6 to see how many hit points you gain, and you add your constitution every single time. Or you could take the average of the d6, which is 4. So if you don't think that you'll be able to roll a 5 or 6 reliably, I'd suggest go ahead and take that 4. We're applying our ability score bonuses over to the skills chart, and I go down the columns. It's the fastest way to do it. So strength, we are not proficient. So athletics is the only thing that covers strength. So now we'll go over to dex, and you put a 3 under everything that says DEX next to the name of the ability. All right. So sleight of hand, it's a 3, and our stealth is a 3. Then we go to Constitution, 5th edition. Constitution isn't used for any skill checks. So let's go ahead and go to Intelligence. Our Intelligence bonus is a 2. But we're proficient in Arcana, so that 2 becomes a 4. And then for History, it's a 2. Investigation is a 2. In Nature, 2. Religion, 2. Now let's go on to Wisdom. Our Wisdom is also a 2. So Animal Handling. Insight, we're proficient, so that 2 becomes a 4. Medicine, 2. Perception, 2. Survival, 2. Alright, so then now we do the bad boy, our charisma. That's our main stat. We're going to be proficient in quite a bit of these because we set it up that way. So, deception, it's a 6. Intimidation is a 6. Performance is a 4. Persuasion is a 6. So you add all these numbers whenever your DM calls for an Arcana check, for instance. You roll your d20 dice, and then you add the 4 to the result. These are basically like your bonuses that get added to your rolls, and so that's why it's important to kind of stat your character out how you want them to be. Our passive perception is 10 plus our wisdom, so our passive is a 12. Passive perception means things that you can see, smell, hear, related to your senses automatically without you having to call attention to it. Your DM will clue you in on things that your character can perceive without you trying. Then finally, we have to figure out the attack bonus and the damage of our crossbow. Should we use it? A crossbow uses your dexterity. Melee weapons use your strength. So we are going to add 3, and we're proficient. So that means our attack bonus is 5 whenever we attack with our crossbow. And then, of course, whenever your proficiency bonus goes up, you increase it. So let's go ahead and look at the damage type of a crossbow, shall we? Alright, so we can see simple ranged weapons. Light crossbow falls under that. It's worth 25 gold. It does 1d8 piercing. It requires ammunition. The bolts that we wrote down, we have 20. So it weighs 5 pounds in case your DM wants you to track weight. It's becoming less important, in my opinion, per edition. The range, the short range or the normal range is 80. The long range is 320. It requires loading, and it's a two-handed weapon. So for your range, anything less than 80, you're good to go. You could go over 80 up to 320, but you're firing that weapon with disadvantage, which means you roll 2d20 and then you take the lowest number. If you ever gain an advantage, you roll 2d20 and you take the highest number. Don't forget to apply your bonuses. Alright, so the damage was a d8. Since it's a crossbow, you add your dex. So when you attack to hit, you add your dex and your proficiency. If you actually do hit and you roll your damage, you just add your dex. Now I noted the range here under your attack, just so it's right close to your weapon since there's not enough space there. And then any additional weapons that you get, you could place down here, or you could put them in order if you want to, according to what your main weapon would be and what your side weapons would be. Now let's check over the character sheet real fast, and I think we're done. We could get out of here. Oh. Okay, so go ahead and put in the guild artisan here for our character background. I don't know if you're going to be doing experience or milestones, so I'll leave that for you. I obviously don't know your name, so I'm going to leave that for you. The gold's all correct. Age, height, all that's done. If you'd like to, write your character appearance in here. You don't have any treasure yet. You can write your backstory in there. Oh, the spell casting ability is charisma based. Now let's figure out your spell save DC and your attack bonus. I included the dagger attack bonus. It's a finesse weapon, so you don't have to use strength, even though it's a melee. You can use your dex as well. Since your dex is higher, we went with your dex. So your attack bonus is also 5. And then you add the 3 as well for the damage. So you do 1d4 plus 3. Your spell save DC is 8 plus your proficiency modifier plus your charisma modifier. So we go back up here. Charisma modifier is a 4. And proficiency is a 2. 8 plus 4 is 12. 12 plus 2 is 14. So our spell save DC is 14. And that simply means that enemies who you attack with spells, if they can roll a save for that spell, they have to meet or beat a 14 in order to get past your spell. And then your spell attack would be your charisma plus your proficiency. And so that means your spell attack bonus is a 6. And we are done. Spell slots for level 1 is 2 first levels. Your cantrips, we covered it earlier. You know 4 of them. And that's it. So thank you so much for watching. I'm Saul Sunforge. If you enjoyed this video, or if you want to download this character, it'll be in the comments section. But especially if you enjoyed this video, please give me a subscribe. I would very much appreciate that. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. I'll see you soon. Catch you in the next video.